Namaskar. Good morning, everybody. So great to be here on CSR Box. And these next 50 or 55 minutes is something you'll experience design thinking. If you can grab a paper and a pen next to you, it'll be great. We'll start with an icebreaker activity. I am super excited to be here with you, helping you to understand and experience and explore design thinking. A little bit about me is I help organizations drive design-led culture, and that's where I help them to solve complex problems and help people become creative problem solver. So with that, we begin. I hope you all have grabbed pen and paper. We'll begin the workshop now. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. Thank you, Sparsh. The what we're going to do today is the agenda is that we're going to be quickly covering the what and the why and the how of design thinking. I'll walk you through a couple of case studies, and then at the end we'll have a couple of minutes where people can ask questions on where and how can you apply design thinking in social sector, and we'll have discussions and conversations around that. So with that, let's begin the first thing. I hope all of you got a pen and a paper with you. Here is something I want you to do is that I want you to design a table for a 7-year-old child. I want you to design a table for a 7-year-old child, and the timer starts now, and you only have 1 minute to do that. Grab a pen and a paper and start doing that. Design a table for a 7-year-old kid. Timer starts now. Time is up. If anybody would like to share, uh, two people can volunteer to share. What you have to do is you have to share how did you approach this activity? Yeah? Anybody who would like to share that? Yes, please go ahead. Yes, Sunil, go ahead, please. How did you approach the activity? Uh, Sunil, can you hear me? Can you please share how did you approach the activity? Or Sumit, if you can share, how did you approach the activity, please? If you can unmute yourself, we're not able to hear you.
Ma'am, I think since we disabled the chat in the beginning, that's why they're not able to comment back. However, we'll just change the settings and then we can move forward. Just
Sure,
give us 1 minute and then we'll
sure.
get back to you on this.
And in the meanwhile, Sunil, you can write it on the chat. How did you approach the activity? Sumit, I request you also to do that same thing, and Tarun as well. How did you approach the activity?
You can put it on the Q&A part. You can access that one and change the questions participants. So we'll enable the chat meanwhile.
So if people can see, there are interesting things. Sunil is saying that he tried to imagine what it is that a 7-year-old would look like on this table. Sumit talked about starting with thinking what a 7-year-old needs, space for books, art, material. Great. Thank you for sharing your observations. And what I wanted to bring as a what is the purpose of doing this activity? And that's what I wanted to bring your attention to is that often when we are given a problem, we immediately start with jump into the solution mode. Yeah. And we do not see that we need to explore the problem. We need to identify if this is the problem also or not. That's how the typical human behavior is, that we immediately jump into solutions without understanding who is facing the problem, and we assume that this is what they would need. And this is what happens when we do it in the real world. So with that, what I wanted to bring to your attention is that uh, you're able to see my screen.
We were earlier, but not anymore. Yeah, now we
So
can.
with that, what I wanted to bring in is that this is how the human behavior plays, that we always jump into solution, and that is what is limits our possibilities to explore the right problem. And we end up solving the wrong problem. And also we come up with a solution which is not desirable by the user who is facing the problem. How the companies who solve this problem, how do they actually approach this problem is, I'm bringing you a interesting example from IKEA. I hope you would have heard about this company. This is into manufacturing accessories. Now, when this company was given a task like this, they literally bend on their knees to be a 7-year-old kid and be in the same environment where the children are playing, maybe in the school, maybe at home, maybe at the play area. What kind of needs do they have? They interviewed them, they asked them questions instead of assuming that this is what they need. So it is all about understanding their perspective, your user perspective, the human who is facing the problem. Their perspective is very essential when you design a solution. And that's what happens when you actually come up with products or services or experiences. Often they don't sustain for a long time because we are not capturing and fulfilling the needs of the people. So that's what is very important. When you are given a problem, you approach the problem with the curiosity, the questions about who is facing the problem and what kind of problems they are facing. And this is the whole crux of why we're looking at design thinking. So a little bit about the different organizations who have been, exploring and applying design thinking. I'm just bringing you a handful of them. There are so many of them. I'm bringing you United Nations to World Health Organization to Bank of America, World Bank Group, Tom Shoes, and many more. We'll experience and explore that how different organizations from banking to social to manufacturing to hospitality, how everybody is leveraging this skill to solve the problems of today and tomorrow of their customers. Remember, the only thing which is common across all of this is that they are completely focusing on the customer, the user for whom they're solving the problem. So we move to what is design thinking. So I hope you got a glimpse of what is design thinking. So if I take you to what we have just experienced, design thinking is about understanding, it's more about human-centric creative problem-solving approach. It brings in innovation by integrating the needs of the people who are facing the problem, possibilities of technology, and requirement for business success. So these are the three lenses. If you look on the right on the screen, these are the three lenses which is very critical in design thinking. We always start with the needs of the people, what their desires are, what their needs are, unmet needs, their issues, their concerns, their latent needs, their emotional needs, their functional needs, and then we move to what out of those needs which we have surfaced out, which are the ones which are most compelling, which is more profitable, or which is more gives us a competitive advantage, and which is also very desirable from the user standpoint, and also is giving a good, making a good business sense. And then we move to how do we actually build a solution, and that's the third lens, and it is called feasibility. What kind of capabilities, resources, would we need in order to build this solution? So remember the three lenses, we always start with desirability, we move to viability and feasibility, yeah? And if you see the overlap or the intersection of these three circles, you would find that's the sweet spot where the innovative solution lies in, where the breakthrough solution lies in. And that's where the art of actually coming up with a sweet spot solution is the one which we have to always look forward to. So with that, I talked about a little bit about what is design thinking. We just experienced a little bit about why we need it, what it is. We'll also see what, how. So there are 5 phases Stanford has coined it for design thinking. These are the 5 phases. It begins with empathizing. Whenever there is a challenge or a problem, we see who is the person who's facing the problem. We try to understand the psychology of that human, and then we surface out insights about their unmet needs, and then we redefine the problem. Often the problem gets redefined during this phase because we are looking at reframing the problem from user-centric point of view, incorporating their needs in the problem. Then because after this we capture a lot of inspiration, we've gathered a lot of data, and it inspires us to come up with ideas. That's the time we bring in ideas, and then we build those ideas and share it with our user, and that's the time we test it. Let me give you a quick example here. I'm not too sure how many people have heard about Tom's shoes. Has anybody heard about Tom's shoes? You can just put it on the chat if you've heard about them. So Tom Shoes is more about, this is a company formed by a person who was traveling to Argentina. And what happened during that time is that uh, he observed in Argentina that he had actually come up with his friends over there for a travel. And he observed that there was children who were barefoot, who were not having shoes. And why? Because the shoes people were donating, but either the shoes were out of size, or they were no shoes at all, and those shoes were not catering to the needs of the people who were there. Yeah. So even the donation was not working very well to solve the needs of the people who were not able to afford shoes. So that's what inspired him to come up with how might I, create, how might I make the shoes available to these people? Yeah. So one way was that he would go back and look for just, manufacturing the shoes and giving it to them. But that would also be something like a very huge cost for him. So what he did is he went back to US, and that's when he said that, why not I come up with a shoe which I sell it to the customer, and for that same amount, when the customer pays, I also send a pair of shoes to Argentina to the people who are not able to afford the shoes. So the customers who would buy for a special cause. So can you see that how did he change the entire perspective? And when he got this idea, that's the time he said that, he would look forward to making the shoes with alpargata. That's a kind of a canvas which is used for, like rubber or canvas kind of shoes. But then a lot of people told him that, after interviewing that, we would not buy it because nobody buys in US these kind of shoes. But then the moment he shared about that, this is the social cause, and this is if you buy, and this is what you give back to the society. The next day, when he had actually opened up the entire shoes in the market, in just one day he was able to sell more than 2200 pairs of shoes in US. And it was something which was actually put down on the top front page in the newspaper, in the media as well, right next to the big brands. And that led him to come back and fulfill his promise of giving the shoes back to the people who really need it in Argentina. So this is where how design thinking was applied, completely looking at the user. For them was people who couldn't afford the shoes, and the shoes were not accessible and were not in the right size. This is how the problem started, and this is how he brought in a lot of people, and this led to a good cause. Tom shoes is very sellable. It's available in India as well. So this is an interesting example from how how you actually capture the needs of the people and how you build a solution around it, which is not only desirable but also makes a business sense, and it is feasible as well. So I want to bring you interesting case study, and I bring it close to where we live in India, and it's there in India as well as Nepal. Now, this is about a case study which is about, if you see on the screen, every 10 seconds, the world loses a newborn. 6 babies die every minute. 3 million of those babies die in the first 28 days of their life, and the millions more grow up debilitating health issues. So over the last 100 years, the baby incubator has been one of the most influential contributions to the decline in infant mortality rate. But yet today, the baby dies needlessly every 10 seconds. So why is that happening, though we have incubators, and why is that happening? So the challenge was about how do we reduce the infant mortality rate, and why is it happening if we had the incubator facility available? So that was something which led to people to empathize, and this was something which Stanford University's students had actually flown from US to Nepal, and they observed mothers and the newborns in the natural environment and interviewed them that why is that happening. So if you look on the screen, is something which I'm showing you on the left is the incubator, and incubator is something what you see on the screen. It looks like it maintains the optimal temperature, humidity, and other conditions such as carbon dioxide and oxygen, which is needed in order to keep the temperature warm inside for the infant. In developing countries, mortality of these infants is particularly high because incubators are extremely rare or they're very expensive. Most hospitals and clinics in developing countries are not there in rural areas. So that is one insight which led to not people reaching to the hospital on time. So majority of the newborns are born in rural areas, are not able to access this, and a newborn would never be able to make it to a hospital because it's not so nearby and the facility is not there. So this all happened by observing and interviewing and empathizing with these users, the mothers and the newborns. And there was really a solution which was needed, a solution which was affordable, accessible, and reusable, something which works without electricity also, something which is transportable also, intuitive, sanitizable, culturally appropriate. So these are some of the things which was there in the mind of the people when they were coming up with the insights and looking at solving the problem. So if you look at, this is something which is a real case study, and this is something which happened in India as well. And that's where they realized that no matter how good their design for a new incubator was, it would never help these babies if they are not able to make it to a hospital. And to save the maximum number of lives, the design would have to function in a rural area. It would have to work without the electricity, very transportable, intuitive, sanitizable, and culturally appropriate, and perhaps most importantly, inexpensive. So with this, the kind of ideas they had come up, if you see in the screen, is something very interesting they had come up with. On the left, if you see, is a kind of a baby warmer. They call it also like an incubator, but then it's a baby warmer. So the question here was how might we make the incubator affordable and accessible in rural areas? How might we solve the problem? Yeah, for these newborns and mothers. So the core technology of this warmer is that this is a phase change material is used. If you see, it's like a cloth kind of a material. Inside this cloth kind of a material is the wax-like substance which is placed. The wax-like substance is a paraffin wax which is placed inside, which maintains a temperature of 98 degrees for up to 8 hours if it is heated. Now, how do you heat this kind of wax pouches? That it can be heated on in the boiling water. So if you see it is reusable, you can wash it. Its bacteria is very minimum, seamless to be there, because you can wash it, you can reuse it. So those are the things which work on this kind of a baby warmer. So now this is where the cost, which was so high, and the machine was not available. But this is something, the mothers, if you see on the screen, can on the right, can actually take it from the hospital, use it, and send it back. And even if they want to buy it, they can buy it, because it's even less than $200. So this is something which makes, which solves the need with those things, which parameters which we had seen, making it affordable, intuitive, culturally appropriate, something which they can reuse, and something which they can use without electricity as well. So it only happens when you observe and empathize and understand, rather than assuming that this is what is happening, rather than those Stanford University students only assuming in US that this is what is happening. They actually had flown over there, and they observed the human in the natural environment where they were, and interviewed and asked questions on what their needs are. Any questions so far? So I see some interesting things coming in. People are sharing that there was a 100-watt bulb. People, please keep looking at the chat as well. So I'll also take up your questions. If you have any questions right now, we can take it up, or we take it up at the end as well.
Ma'am, whichever way is convenient for you, we can take it that way. So, would you mind taking it right now or at the end once the presentation is done?
I can take it up right now. Till the time what I've covered, I can take it up right now.
So, I think one of the person was asking in between while you were discussing that, so it means he sold the product which a consumer doesn't need. And I
Uh,
think,
can he explain a little more about it?
Vijay, can you elaborate on your question a bit? And then after that also, I think you did answer a bit of the questions from that part, and but he hasn't elaborated on it much. So
So there is a need, the need was that the children who were barefoot were the ones whom they were able to cater to their needs. And the needs of the other customers were people who wanted to buy with a special social cause in their mind. Yeah. So both the needs were fulfilled. So if you remember, you go back to that lenses of desirability, feasibility, and viability, it does make a sense from both the user needs as well as business sense as well. Yeah. Keep asking me questions. People, if you elaborate on the chat, it will be great. You can otherwise unmute yourself and ask me a question. I'm taking you to the next case study, and this is another interesting one. And this is about Jakarta. I'm taking you to Jakarta. It's a capital of Indonesia. And if you see on the screen, as what you see on the right is a kind of a vehicle which is used in this city, and this is basically a public transport which is used for people to move from one place to the another. The kind of problem which this city was facing was that how to mitigate traffic congestion. So, and why I'm bringing that vehicle is I'll talk about it a little more in detail. So, with that, United Nations wanted to help the Makassar officials, the officials who manage the functions of transport in that city, are the ones who got equipped with the skill of design thinking, and this was sponsored by United Nations. And United Nations actually joined in this course to help them to make the city follow those sustainable development goals which they had come up with. Now, they observed the vehicle which the people were using. So what I'm showing you on the top, on the left, where the child is coming out of the vehicle, is called Pete Pete. That was a transport vehicle which was used. And what was happening was that there was a lot of traffic congestion. Why? Because people did not find it safe to use. One of the reasons is because it wasn't safe for the children and the people with special needs, and a lot of other needs which are needed in a vehicle for people to transport from one place to other, for women, for senior citizens. So what was happening was a lot of a lot of congestion was there because everybody was bringing their vehicle, and Pete Pete was not solving the needs of the people. So what happened with that is that they looked at the vehicle, they had reinvented the vehicle, and they named it as Pasicola. Now, Pasicola is a vehicle, again, the same one, reinvented in terms of, if you look into the interior, is what was, how they reshaped and revamped this vehicle. This was more looked at from the all the needs of, safety, place for people to sit, and the water and other things are available there. There is a, now this led to insurance in the parents' mind that, if we raise, if we help our child to move from one place to the other using Pasicola, it'll be safe enough. And the other thing is that they also provide the safety belts in it, so that the child is safe, and people who are not able to use that with special needs were also, there were things which were available for them to use this kind of a vehicle as well. Now, this initiative helped to reduce the traffic congestion because now parents were sending the children there. This also supplemented the income of the already the people who were the drivers of Pete Pete. This saved the parents time, reliable school transportation. And then this was also in alignment with sustainable development goals, uh, sustainable development goals. And so what you see on the screen is we're talking about the sustainable development goal 3.6. It is about reducing the injuries from road accidents, and also about making the sustainable cities, that is SDG 11, sustainable development goal 11, where you actually cater to the needs of the people who are in special situations like women, children, and other elderly people. So with that, what they looked at, the entire citizens got inspired to work on participating in coming up with many more such initiatives. And that's how they actually created a public sector innovation where it was more driven by the citizens rather than just the government here. So it was a constant collaborative effort where they had come up with many more solutions in order to reduce the transportation and many other issues which were there in the city as well. So so if you see in this, in from the beginning, they involved the citizen to be part of it. Even coming up with this kind of a new reshaped vehicle was something where the citizens were involved in to do that, and the voice of the citizen was heard and was shared, and it was prototyped and tested with the users, and when they got satisfied, this is how this shaped into something called desirable solution for the user.
Ma'am,
I'm
we have a question. I'm so
sure.
sorry to interrupt,
Yeah,
but we got a
sure.
question from Mr. Sunil. He said that we are working in healthcare and education for villages. We tried conducting several extremely informal sessions with the villagers. We tried formal surveys for 16 to 17-year-old. None of them could express what is that they want, neither for education nor even for health. They are oblivious to what their needs are because their awareness is very limited. Example, the mothers don't even think that malnutrition is a problem. The 16 to 17-year-old don't know of any career options except police and teacher. How do we capture their needs in this situation? So,
Yeah, so that's a very interesting and a great question. So if I take you back to the Stanford work which was done for coming up with the baby warmer, this was not a need which was voiced out. This was a need which they observed living in that environment. This was a need which they captured by observing those people. So you also have to observe and understand, but by being in those natural environment with the user, what kind of challenges do they face, and then have questions around that, and then possibly create some scenarios where they would find that they can open up. So it's also about making them open up and ease. So it's all about empathizing and understanding and coming to that level. If I take you back to the table exercise, it is not only going back to the 7-year-old child and asking questions. It is about literally bending it, then bending on the height of the same height of a 7-year-old kid and understanding what does it look like and what does it feel like. So it's important that you observe, you understand, and then see if you can come up and create some scenarios where people can come up with. You do some kind of role plays, or you actually ask them how was the role play, what was missing, what kind of challenges you think which we did not address. So that way you are asking the community to open up, you're joining hands with them, you're trying to understand what they are looking at. But this only happens when you spend a lot of time with them and just not going and asking them questions, especially in the places where the awareness is very limited, or where the perceptions are that it may not happen with only interviewing. Yeah. So with that, I bring you to another very interesting thing. And now this is very close in India. There would be a lot of people in Bangalore. This is coming from an organization called Reap Benefits. This organization was awarded by OpenIDEO, and it was funded by OpenIDEO for their interesting idea, which they had come up during pandemic. What you see on the screen is that this organization is a social enterprise, and this organization really wanted to help drive a citizen centric engagement to solve the needs of the people who do not get the right essentials which they need during this pandemic. So we give a lot of we try to help people. We either we donate something, money or the material, but what if the material or the money doesn't reach the people on time? Yeah, that's the biggest concern. So what do we do so that that last mile connectivity of really making it available to those people should happen? So that's where, how do you make sure that the recipients get it as fast as possible? How do you ensure your help reaches the recipients in a form they can quickly put it to use? So these are the kind of gaps, the needs which they had come up with. The very interesting ideas they had come up was about engaging the people in the local communities to help them. So to drive that co-drive with them. So what they did is that people who are interested to join hands with them in the local communities where these special where the needed people are there, so that the last mile connectivity happens. What they did is that they joined hands with them, and they made it available using lots of tools like WhatsApp, which is not, and many more communication channels, which is not only specific to English, and many other languages were used, so that they could quickly communicate and make the local citizen problem solver to reach there and see if that has been the essentials have reached that place or not. Because often finding that place or finding those people is also a challenge, though there would be essentials but they don't reach on time. So can you see this helped to drive a citizen centric involvement to help the needy people to get that last mile connectivity, get the get the essentials through this last mile connectivity. Yeah. So if you see, this is such an interesting thing. And they use a dashboard which tells them that where the needs are, and how you can fulfill if you want to join them. And you would be given mentoring, and people across different parts of southern India have already joined hands with them. So this is something which was showcased in OpenIDEO, and that's a OpenIDEO is another arm of IDEO, the company. And they were funded to take this forward, so that these they increase this pace of helping people and making it more streamless, so that people become part of this mission rather than they only driving this kind of a thing. So there's a lot of data and analytics they use in this kind of a tool. Any questions that you have so far?
So someone asked, what could be the considerations while developing technology read as software? for differently abled person or people with special needs, and how can we make technology accessible to them?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question again. So, so when we come to feasibility part of, and that is about, developing a solution. Even before that, what kind of a need drives? What is that need which drives them to look for technology? Is something what you have to observe. So, what is that need which drives that, and how do you do that? So, I'll give you an example. When one of the teams in IDEO, they wanted to come up with a monster app, an app where children pull the ear, the monster acts somewhere and do these kind of things. So they did not come up with a complete app, a technology which they could show it to the children and get their understanding. What they did is the other way around. What they did is that just to capture the needs of their users, what they did is they did a role play with kind of cardboards and a lot of props and acts, just to see how children would behave if somebody standing behind the screen, that is the app, and if they do something, what would the reaction be, and how would they try to interact with them. So can you see that very rough and scrappy thing helped them to come up with what needs would they have to incorporate when they build something like that. So it's important that you look at the need which you bring in, with the need you're solving in, so that you put that into a kind of a role play or similar thing what I
I've not
just
put on my
shared
video,
mentioned,
but
so that we share with them, and then we come up with a solution. Now I'm opening up for more questions, but I'll encourage that if you think about the questions about where and how can you apply design thinking in social sector. Yeah, we have couple of minutes. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and if people want to turn on their videos and have conversation, it'll be great, because sometimes understanding the question itself, the language, takes a lot of time on the chat. So I'll encourage that you start asking questions um, on the video as well as the audio.
So I'll propose one another question that was raised by Mr. Vijay. From the customer perspective, as you mentioned, that those are the types of shoes they don't buy in the US. So it seems they bought the shoes as they see it only as a social cause. How long would it be run as a solution that they are buying is solely due to the social cause, not because they want or like the product? Would it
Yeah.
fit in the solving need for the buyer and long-term viability of the solution?
Very, very powerful question. Thank you. Often the user don't know what they need. So that's what it is. They perceive that before looking at the shoe, they perceive that, nobody will buy it. But the moment that started coming in, a lot of people bought it. Yeah. So it's not only fulfilling for the social cause, but they found it very easy to use. And Tom Shoes is very sellable in the world. It is being sold across the world, and one of the reasons is that user may not know what they need. Yeah, so they may say that this is not something which we like, but when you prototype and when you share with them that this is how it looks like, then they see and they understand that this is how it solves their needs. Yeah, so they found it very comfortable, they found it very usable. So thank you for asking a great question. Any other questions? I'll encourage audience to ask me questions directly, so that I understand the problem as well very well, because often framing the question itself is also an art. Remember, asking the powerful questions also requires you to frame that in a way that you get a right response, because there's a statement which is very powerful: the communication you do is the response you get. So it is about, how do you communicate, what kind of questions you ask, what kind of language do you use, and that's how you're going to get the answers. So sometimes we think that it is the awareness that people are not answering, but maybe there is some lack at our end. We are not framing the question properly the way they would understand. Yeah. So it's also about empathizing with them and framing the questions as well.
Thank you, ma'am, for elaborating on those aspects. However, because of the time crunch, we might not be able to take more questions. And we can take the other questions, maybe we can forward them to you and take it forward from there.
Sure, sure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I hope you all create a great impact in the world with this session. And I hope you're going to be more curious to see how you can ask right questions and help your users solve the problem. Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead.